What's good, sports gamers? And with this video, I'm going to show you, instead of saying you should be playing on-ball defense, I'm going to show you the benefits of playing on-ball in NBA 2K23 that the computer simply can't give you, and along the way improve your defensive knowledge as a whole. And if you like the content we provide, make sure to subscribe to the channel to continue to help us grow. I'm Chris from Sports Gamers Online, and alright, let's get it. First things first, being on ball, you have a huge advantage by way of positioning, predicting, and dictating than that of the computer. That can create turnovers and more missed shots by going off course, instead of being reactive like the computer is, and I'll go over all of this shortly. Now let's get familiar with the controls as an on-ball defender if you're new or haven't played in a while. To track the ball handler, you're going to be using the left stick to move around in any direction. The softer you hold it, the slower you will move in that given direction. Moving slowly will cause your defender to not put his foot in the ground as hard and get crossed easily when changing directions. To get into a defensive stance, you're going to do so by holding the left trigger on your controller. Getting into a stance will always keep your player facing forwards and less likely to overrun the ball handler. Where although you can technically defend one-on-one with just the left stick, like I mentioned, if you're going full speed with the left stick, any sudden change by the ball handler and you're flying. So it's pretty much unavoidable to get crossed up, just using the left stick if you're trying to guard somebody like Kyrie. Which is why the defensive stance is handy, where again holding the left trigger will always keep the defender facing the ball. You can look at it like they're being disciplined in their focus, so when the ball handler changes direction, the game won't send you flying when you try and go back the other way. The downside is holding the left trigger button limits the sideline to sideline speed that you will possess just holding the left stick and running around. So going into a defensive stance, holding the left trigger limits your speed but keeps you from overrunning the actual ball handler when they attempt to change direction. A common issue with this is players get caught staying in a stance long after it's apparent they're beat, when they need to move much faster to catch up, or leaving their stance way earlier than necessary, like when the ball handler hasn't even moved and starts sliding all over the place and it's pretty much over at that point. And while just tracking the ball handler with the left stick gives you increased speed without much discipline when they change direction. So I'm going to show you when and why you need both to be successful. And while mentioning just using your left stick, you're also going to want to know how to sprint out of your stance, which you do so by first letting go of the left trigger. Move and hold the left stick in the direction you want, and then holding the right trigger to sprint in the direction of your choice, which activates your pure sprint, and your player will run as fast as he can. It's an easy transition from being in a defensive stance, as it's just letting go of the left trigger and then holding the right trigger to go from in a stance to sprinting. Now, being in a defensive stance is going to assist you in guarding the lines. And just the left stick and right trigger are going to help you when you can no longer do that successfully and it's time to catch back up. It's something I mentioned in previous years and remains the same, is when I mean guarding the lines, I mean guarding across the free throw line if you're coming from the middle of the court, and the elbow to the low block depending on which side you're coming from. And you need to beat your opponent to this spot if they're trying to attack it. And knowing this is a spot you need to beat your opponent to will help you tremendously against ball handlers trying to get into the paint. You can't let them beat you to this spot. If they do, their animations will trigger and bad stuff happens. You ever notice when somebody drives and they pump fake around the free throw line? It's usually because you beat them to the spot and denied their animation from triggering. Now, if it becomes apparent the ball handler is out of your reach and is going to beat you to the animation triggering spots, it's time to be out. And get out of your defensive stance and hold the right trigger and sprint to cut them off the best you can. Since because you know the lines you must guard, you're able to tell earlier when you're clearly beat and it's time to get in the sprint mode, which is where you can turn seemingly wide open layups and dunks into contests. And if you're able to successfully catch back up, just begin holding the left trigger again to get back into a defensive stance to wall them off and prevent you from getting crossed up if they change directions. On fast breaks, having the knowledge of your aim points and when to sprint can help lessen the panic of the moment. In this situation, the only difference is I like to add in a light jog that I mentioned earlier until the ball handler commits to a direction before I cut them off from reaching the spots I need to defend. Reason I'm lightly jogging is I don't want to put my foot in the ground and slow him down when the ball handler can instantly change directions. It's not fair. And to do it like jog, just aim the left stick slowly in whatever direction you want. Now, one of the biggest advantages of playing on ball that the computer can't replicate is you taking advantage of your opponent being predictable in what they do. Do they always come up the court in the middle, attack their ball hand, and see what happens? After a rebound, are they looking down court for a Hail Mary pass? This is when you can sneak and get a steal as they run right into your path. And also, more importantly, leveraging your ability to see behind you and predict where your opponent is about to go and wall them off. Since you can see what the ball handler sees, you can see if they have a clear lane or not and adjust accordingly, and being that much quicker when your suspicion is proved right. This comes in handy a lot guarding against sideline attacks where you at best can attack their ball hand for a steal, or at worst have them run into a brick wall because you're already in their way. You're not going to be able to track a human opponent beat for beat, so you're going to have to rely on cues and even guess to create turnovers to fully take advantage of being able to switch on and cause havoc as an on-ball defender. There's also going to be times when your off-ball defenders will pick up the ball handler because they're running towards them. You want to be aware of this and also use this to your advantage, since the ball handler is leading you in the direction of the now open shooter a lot of the time. What happens is I simply just run straight by my now picked up matchup and straight to the open man, and they either throw it right to me expecting me not to be there, or force up a much heavier contested shot because again they didn't expect you to be there. So be aware of when your off-ball defenders cheat over, leaving their own guy open. Another opportunity where playing on ball can help you is in strictly 1 versus 1 modes, and it's defending the pass back once you get the ball handler to give up the ball on the perimeter. When you get them to pick up their dribble or deny their pass initially and they pass it, there's a high chance without them thinking they're going to pass it right back on some let's try this again stuff. This is an opportunity to get a turnover for yourself, so it doesn't hurt to hit the steal button once they pass it. And besides going in the pause menu to set this up, if you want a specific player on the ball handler on the fly, you can do so by hitting the left bumper on your controller, then the icon of the player you want to change their assignment to. Then select the icon of the player you want your defender to switch on to, and this assignment will activate on the next possession. So with that, alright sports gamers, hope this video was able to help you out. And if you like the content we provide, make sure to subscribe to Sports Gamers Online for more NBA 2K23 content. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And once you're with us, hit that bell icon at the bottom so you don't miss anything we put out. Alright people, I'm Chris. Thank you all for watching, and be good y'all.